Good morning. Welcome to Saturday Sampler. Glad you're here. Hi, Kathy. Love Saturday. Yeah, the weekend, it's nice when it comes. It's a beautiful day here in the foothills as well. Morning, Kristen. Wait a few minutes here before we get started for a few more people to pop on. We've got a bunch of things to cover today. Good morning, Kyla. Torrance, overcast and cool. That sounds kind of nice. Hi, Alice. So, and Barbara. So we got Pennsylvania, Ohio. Wow. Winnipeg. Hi. Terry, Rowena, Barbara, and San Diego. Somewhere you might run across in San Diego, my daughter walking down the street next to you somewhere. So that's where she's from. I would love to be there and spending time with her, and just always have loved San Diego. All right. Hi, Denise. Okay, let's talk a little bit about a couple of things. Today, we're going to be looking at those diamonds again. A couple of reasons that I'm doing this is, number one, I had gotten a number of emails that I left out just a huge part of my lesson last week and didn't even realize it. And so I want to go back and make sure that when you're putting those sashings in, the length, the ones down the full row, that your diamonds match up across. And I'll show you what I do. I don't know if it's the best choice, but it's the choice that I found that works for me. And I didn't spend a lot of time trying to find what other people do or whatever. I'm just sharing with you what I do. And then I did not sew the 6-pointed star because that really wasn't where my focus was. But I had a number of requests if I would sew that star together and how you do it. And again, there's a number of ways that one can put that, diamond star together. And, using even triangles and that type of thing, and where there's a number of seams and it would sew together in rows, and some find that much easier. I am going to share with you putting in the blocks in without cutting them or whatever, and share with you my method for doing that. So that's what today is going to be about. And so let's get started. But first I want to share with you, Alice sent me this, and I want to share with you her quilt that she put together after the show this past week. And what a happy, bright, just kind of want to make you smile. And I love the little sunflowers peeking through. So Alice, thank you for sending that. And obviously you know exactly how to get all of those diamonds to line up well. So if you have a hint or something that we can all learn from, pop it into the chat box. That would be great. But thank you for sending that. And then the second thing that I want to show you is that next week I will be at my retreat that I do in Michigan. And so there will not be a show next week on the 5th, I believe is the date. But after that, coming up in a couple of weeks, is going to be our next project called Starbright. And this is the quilt. I'm excited about this one because what you're going to learn today is a big part of what you'll learn in this quilt, using those diamond shapes and sewing in my method of doing those kind of Lemoyne stars is what I always call them, around that. And it's just absolutely beautiful. There's something special, though, that you need to know today as we look at this quilt. From now till noon Pacific time, or my time here, this quilt is going to be on pre-sale for those of you who are watching and hear about it today on the show. So to do that, at 12 noon. It's going to be gone until Wednesday the 2nd. So this is a chance for you, as watchers of the show, to get it and make sure that you are able to get it. So the pre-sale products, Kristen is going to put a link, and she just did, I see it there, for the Star Bright kit. And that's going to be in that live chat, and it'll be there, and you can go back to it and click on it. And I'm going to show you a QR code in just a minute. I'm going to put it on the screen, and you can scan it on your phone to go to the products in the store as well. So you can either hit that link, or you can do the QR code. And what's in the kit is the kit, and that covers everything on the top and the binding, plus the pattern. So the quilt kit is on sale from now till noon, my time. The pattern, or you can get it as a downloadable pattern, whichever way you prefer. And so, but in the kit comes a printed copy of the pattern. And if you have a Star member 25% off coupon, you can apply it to this. So there's a limited number of kits. So if you think that you would really like to do this and want to make this is a great time to jump in and get this while it's available. Now let me get to let me put up the QR code, and I'll put it up again a little bit later. So this is the QR code, and you can scan that, and that way you can go to the shop and order that kit. I'm excited about that quilt because I think you'll have fun doing it once you realize that star, those Lemoyne stars, and today's show is going to show you a little bit how I tackle those corners in that. So hopefully you got a chance to scan that. I'll put it up a little bit later, and we'll have that. So all right, let me drop down to the table, and we'll get started on here. I just kind of doing it, and it's not showing up great on the camera. I'll see if I can make it a little bit darker for you. But what I do when I come across, and this is where maybe, Alice, if you're comfortable with putting something up in the chat box, and you have a trick that I don't know about, I sew the one side completely on, my strips as I go between. But then I'll take my ruler, and when I line up the next one, I will use my ruler and line that up, and I usually draw a line, and there is a line there. I'll just draw a line across, and that way when I turn it, I can see where it's going to go, because this, it's not going to come straight across. It goes at an angle. The other thing that I will do this just as quick as I'll measure in my 1/4 inch, and I'll put a dot on each side on the back, so that when I'm sewing it, I can just line those dots up. So either way that you would want to do that. So I sew this side on, and you can see I've just pinned it on this side. And again, I don't know that you can see where I put the 1/4 inch dot. And then when I'm coming down where that line is that I drew across, I can see it. So my dot on the back side, which is right, it's partially closed up, but I have a dot right here where that 1/4 inch comes in from this end, and then I have my line that I drew, or I can just put a dot there, and I'll make sure that those two match. So on this seam line and that 1/4 inch where I sewed across, and if those are lined up, then when I open it, and I'm just putting a pin in it right at the moment just so you can see, then it comes out across, and you can see that. All right, does that make sense? Alice says I dropped a pin in at the lattice. Yeah, so basically the same idea. Probably her method is quicker by just dropping the pin in. But sometimes when I'm fiddling around with stuff, I don't always see that. So I think that should work for you there. If it doesn't, please make sure that you do, go back and check that out. Now, on my, table here, I have the 6-pointed star. And the way that I, will tend to sew it together is like you would a hexagon. Now, I mean, you can definitely see the star there. I'll put it together in rows, oftentimes like this. And so you'll see that whole piece. Let me see if I got I don't know that I put up I don't see that I did, that I took a picture of it and of different layouts for you, but I don't think I did. So we're going to sew this 6-star together, and I'm going to show you how to do these corners that normally you would leave a 1/4 inch. You would mark a 1/4 inch on each side, but I don't do that. I sew through it, and I'm going to share that with you. Just as a quick review, the easiest way that I found, and again, there's some waste with this, but I will cut, and these were 3-inch diamonds, and so I'm going to cut a 3-inch diamond out of a 4x6 rectangle. And I'll just show you again. I lined it up from last week. Get rid of that. And the 3-inch half is right there. This 3 inches down here. Now I'm going to turn this around and keep my 3-inch, but at the bottom I can line up my 3-inch sides as it's coming here. This point that I cut off fits exactly in at that 1/4 inch line on the 3-inch point. So now I can go ahead and cut this side, and I cut those points, and you're going to see today, hopefully, how having those points cut off and in there helps a great deal. So I have my 3-inch diamond with those 2 points cut. So I'm going to put that ruler aside for the moment, and let's go back. I have my 6 pieces here. So let's, just kind of put them up. I don't know. I think that looks okay. I'd probably think too much about it, but we're putting this together. So I've got my 6 points, and I am going to sew, these 3 together, and then I can just make a line through the center, and I'm going to show you why I do it instead of just sewing them in a circle, because I really want that center point. For me, that center point where they all come together, and with these points cut off in the diamond, it becomes real easy to get that nice thing. So you're going to simply lay this over like so. You're going to line up each end and get that point, those 2 on the end to meet up, and let me get over to the camera. And I'm going to, do this a little bit as a chain. And if you're sewing it, correctly, you're going to get, and again, I am putting, the flat point that I cut off and the other one together, putting it, get it all lined up, and keep it that way. You're coming out at the point on the edge. And I'm using my Sew Steady mat as well as my, to keep that. And so that I can keep going this way, I'm going to, I think, and I want to know which way this is going. On these right here, you can press them, excuse me, now comes the point of I need to decide how I'm going to press it. And you can either press them open, which I know many of you do, or you can press it to the side. So today, I think, just for the sake of sharing that with you, I am going to press it open. I generally press to the side, but we'll go ahead and open it today and press that before I sew that other. And I want to make sure that I don't have any, wrinkles in that front part. And so now to get this side completed, I'm going to turn this over. And I bent that just a bit, so I'll straighten that out. And again, I am fitting, and that doesn't, let me see if I can get this too. And I think that's about what we have. All right, I'm putting that point in. This side comes completely down. That one does too. Putting this side into the corner there. So I've got it all aligned, and now I can sew that. And of course, when I moved it over here without pinning, I got it a little bit offline. So always double check that and make sure if you are pinning or not pinning. If anything is a little bit longer than this, I think I've said this many times before, I do pin at that point. Because I think it's important to, keep it. Sometimes on camera, I don't do everything that I do on my own simply because of time. And this one is going to take a little bit of time to finish up and sew, so that I can show you how to do those inset seams. Again, I'm going to open that up and make sure that I don't have any wrinkles on the front. And I think this is correct. All right, so I'm going to turn that over, and that corner should fit completely in there. And I love it that those are cut off so well, and it really makes that easy to do. I do appreciate that, because I feel that my quilt comes out a little bit better. All right, so I've got my two sides, and I need to press that, these. So press that open. If I can get my thumb in there and get it open, I will press it open. And, by pressing the inside open, you get a little less bulk in the middle. I don't find that to be, terribly important, because if you look at this one, I press this middle seam open, but all these are pressed to the side, and I don't think it really made a ton of difference at all. So there was the top part. Let's get this one open. maybe you don't see it this way, but sometimes when I'm here on camera and I am showing you guys some of these things, I feel like it's like watching paint dry. What I really get excited over is that when I measure this from the edge, I am really at 1/4 of an inch, and it comes together so beautifully. You know that with pinning here, and I do because I've got space, I'm going to come up right there, and I don't know if you can see that or not, but right where that point is in the seam line on this side, I push my pin all the way in. I'm going to come to this one and push it in. And honestly, I don't really even have to do this because it fits together wonderfully. But I do it just for the sake of caution and making sure that I have it right. Now on the back side, the needle is between my fingers, held straight so nothing is moving. I pin, and I've shown you this before, from the right side to the left side. I'll take and remove this pin now. And now I go back and I am going to drop a pin here because I really don't want that to move. And now we have that length there. And so let's sew this together and see just how having those points cut makes so much difference, and this block really does come together so much easier. I'm going to hold that pin down, and I put that pin at an angle because I can go all the way up to the seam. It's not going to move. It's not going to go anywhere before I take my pin out. I can go over that seam line, and that's why I like that method of pinning so much. Alrighty. And we're going to open this center seam up. So the entire center of this block, today we ironed all those seams open. And now there's, the question of, well, should I starch it before because it's bias? And the answer is, yeah, go ahead. And if you want to do that, I tend not to because I don't always get my quilts quilted right away, and I don't want that starch sitting in my closet welcoming, silverfish and things in and that kind of stuff. And here is where I get excited. That center seam is literally perfect. Isn't that awesome how that comes together like that? And simply because of being able to align it completely. And I'm looking right now, that's why I'm talking weird. All right, so that I was just checking to see if anybody had a question. All right, now comes the part of putting these inset seams into that, and how I go about doing that. So this is going to be set into this block like that. Now, as I said at the top of the show, there are plenty of patterns and tutorials and things out there to do it in many, different ways. These are all triangles, and so you would sew two like triangles together and have a seam across here, and this would be a triangle that you would sew onto the end, and you would end up sewing these triangles like this across and make rows, sew those rows together. And I would have to say that that probably overall might be easier for you to do, but I don't want the seams. I want the solid, and I like that look better, so I choose this method. And you know, with a little bit of practice, to me it's just as easy, if not easier, in some respects, than the other. So you know, you have to do what you feel is good for you. So I'm just going to take you through it step by step, and I'll do it a couple of times so that you can see it, and you saw the piece that was done, and we'll have two sides completed so that I can show you how they work going together. So I'm going to put this one across, and I don't know that you can see this on camera, but you can see the 1/4 inch seam, you know, the shadow of it in the, you know, at the bottom. And I don't feel that from here to there I need to put a pin, but if your machine or you, or just so that you're not pulling or whatever your fabric, drop a pin in to keep it in place. Excuse me, to keep it in place. And I'm going to sew all the way through to the end. I am not stopping at what would be the 1/4 inch. I'm not marking it. If you were a person that does inset seams where you marked, you know, each side, that's a whole different story. I would take my ruler, and I would get my 1/4 inch seam, put it on there, and this pencil's not the best because it's not very sharp, but you could mark it on each side and on each corner like so. And then you would have that point. What I have found with that point is, if I'm using a pen like this that's not very, thin, do you hit on this side? Do you hit on that side? Do you go there? Do you hit it right in the middle? And then you've got that extra thread because they tell you to back stitch and that kind of stuff. And I would get it, maybe 90% of the time, but that other 10% bugged me. So I learned to sew through, and that's what I'm going to share with you today because, well, I can. All right. So again, I'm starting and here's where you'll see me sew directly through to the end of that point. I'm going to lift my needle, lift my presser foot, bring it out, snip those threads, and now let me show you what I do. I get my seam ripper and I'm going to simply remove those stitches up to my 1/4 inch seam line, and I can see the shadow because of it. And here the seam line is here and these cross, so they've already locked themselves into place. So I take the back side and I don't cut the thread because I don't want it to unravel, and I take out those 3 stitches very easily like that. Then with those 3 stitches removed, I'm back at my 1/4 inch, and then I am going to turn this, and this gets folded up, because I want to sew on this side. And on screen, simply because I'm trying to hold it in ways that make it easy for you to see, it always looks awkward. So I'm going to go up here. I'm going to match those two edges in place. I'm going to drop a pin in. Now I'm going to come back down here, and I like, you know, when the seam is, you know, and these two will line up there, okay? And you can put a pin in it at that point. When I press it to one side, I don't have to fiddle quite as much in that point, you know, just getting everything to lay down. But it fits right in that corner again, right at that 1/4 inch. And now I'm going to take it to the machine and sew that. Kind of moved a little bit on me, and I am being, I don't know if you can tell on camera, but I'm being very gentle with how I'm, you know, holding and dealing with my fabric so that I don't stretch it. And I suppose that's where having the starch in it might be helpful to some degree. Oh, and there, right at the end, it moved. All right, up, needle up. All right, so now I can move this. Let me get this back here. So now when I press it, it presses down flat, and I'm going to press it toward the center seam. All right, so I turn it over, and I press the, you know, this side in, just like we always do. Press that side, let it sit, and for me it comes out perfect every time. I don't have to worry about if I hit my markings correctly or whatever. I just sew through, remove those 3 stitches, and I get kind of like what I feel is perfection each time. So now we're going to do that one more time, but first I want to see if there's any questions that I can answer. No. All right, let me get rid of some of these threads because they confuse me. I'm easily confused. All right, so now I'm putting this one in here, and we'll sew those. Again, I'm aligning up in my corner, and you can see by those lines I drew that, you know, they're right on the money. I put my pin in, and now taking this to the machine, and I'm sewing straight down. And I'm sewing to the end of that. Alrighty. Back side of my seam ripper, and I'm just pulling those threads up. And you know, I don't really mind that they're in the back of my quilt because it doesn't really matter. So I have those like that. I am going to pull that to the side just so that fabric is out of my way. Go back to my point up here. I don't have to worry about whether it's, you know, 1/4 inch away or not if I'm going to meet at the other end, because that flat part tells me that I'm exactly where I need to be. Then I'm coming back down here and putting that point in. And so just to say it again, because you have a little bit of a triangle down there, it almost has a diamond shape to it when it's in there. But when I, press, I could even take my fingers and press it back like this. And you kind of, can you see where that 1/4 inch is right there? And when you sew to the end of it, you could stop at that point or whatever. I mean, just how it comes back and lays down so nicely. So let me get this back aligned. All right. Get the threads to the one side so they're out of the way. Alrighty. And so this side over here just lines up as though it was a seam. And if you notice, when I'm sewing, the needle actually comes off right there where I had it almost bent back. So you don't even have to, so needle up, presser foot up, pull it out. And then I'm going to bring it back. I open it up, and again, it's just like, well, it's kind of like perfect. And so I'm going to press it this way on this side. I'm going to press it this way on this side. And again, I'm being very gentle because, as you know, these are all and I've got a lump, so I'm just going to go back and take care of that lump. So whether you sew or press them to the side, and I press the middle seam open or not, but I wanted you to see that it's not hard to sew those in. At least I don't think so. And I like the look. And it's just a different method of using set-in seams. And because I had those dull ends, I mean, it comes off perfect. That's exactly 1/4 inch from there. My points are always straight. I could say, I think I could honestly say almost 100% of the time I have, those seams come out just the way they're supposed to, and it lays flat. So when I'm putting these two together, and I know the show's going a little bit longer than usual, but I will sew it together, like this. And then as I'm sewing the next row on, these become another inset seam. And when I get to the edge, I just trim them straight for that. So I'm simply sewing another diamond in here, a diamond in here. Then the next seam, with the rows, and when it comes to the edge, I put a diamond in here. You could even probably do a half one, but I'm going to end up trimming everything to a 1/4 inch away, and then I can put borders or whatever I want to do. But as you can see, they're going to align, and those points are going to hit each other absolutely perfectly. And Artist says, do you have measurements for the cutting of the diamonds you are working with? Yeah, they were 3 inches. I showed that at the top where I, let me see, what did I do with the ruler? Oh, here it is. So I cut a 4x6 because a 3-inch diamond is, basically about 6 inches here. So I cut a 4x6 rectangle. I laid it on there and then cut from the 3-inch point up and the 3-inch point here. And then I turned my fabric around, aligned my 1/4 inch where the flat side was, right in here. and then lined these up with the sides that I had cut, and then I cut the top part. I did that. If I had another 4x6 rectangle here, I would show it again. But you can make these any size. It doesn't matter what size, you know, is irrelevant in a sense. I mean, you could go as little as 1 inch. I've done that before, but man, is that fiddly when you're doing inset seams. 3 inch I thought was a good one that I could get in the camera, but you know, I probably could have even gone down to a 2 inch diamond so that it fits within the camera better. But if you have the ruler, you know, 3 inches, 3-inch diamonds is all that I cut for all of this. And there's no size changes or anything for that. Sometimes a half hour is not enough. You're exactly right, Sherry. Sometimes it just takes longer with that. So hopefully all of you saw how I do that inset seam. I put a 6 diamond star together, and I want to go back simply for those of you who may not have seen it at the beginning. This is the next project, which will start in a couple of weeks. And today, until 12 o'clock my time, which is a little over an hour from now, an hour and 20 minutes, you still have to decide if you want to make this quilt and you would like the kit. If you do, then it is available to you that are on the show today live. Kristen has put it in. She just did it again. So shop for Starbright. It's right there in the chat box, and you can click on it and purchase it. And in the pattern, in the kit, you will get all of the materials for the top of the quilt and the binding, plus the pattern. And this is, you know, if you want to learn how to sew and match up all those points and everything in a diamond shape, well, this is the quilt that will do it. And truly, this Lemoyne star is what I always call the 8-pointed star, whatever you want to call, is my favorite. I just love it. And the fabrics that they chose for this, I think, are quite lovely, and I do really love that background material. And so, and then it will go off at 12 noon today. No more purchases until Wednesday, October 2nd. But then it's open to everyone. So if you're seeing it, obviously you'll get to jump on it right then. And it's going to be made available to the public on Wednesday the 2nd. All right? And let me put the code back up for those who may be watching it. This QR scan, you can scan it and get to the store by scanning this on your phone. And for those who may be watching it a little bit later or on YouTube, that will fit it in before noon. So there is the scan. All right, so I'll leave that there for a second. And just want to say thank you so much for watching this, and I just kind of changed my game plan for today. Hopefully it was helpful for you, and I will not be here next week because I am going to be at my retreat that I do in Michigan. But if you have questions or anything, my email address is on the screen. Please go to the forum. Kristen has put it up where you can click right into the forum, put your questions, put your pictures there. I love it when you send them to me because I like to see what you do. So have a wonderful couple weeks, and I'll see you in October. That just kind of blows me away that it's October.